Actually, what I thought I did is I thought I accidentally deleted the part that they were on. And I thought they were gone. So I was like, yeah, I was pretty upset. Like I was.
This is the first meeting.
Really upset for a super long time. Because I'm usually so careful about that stuff.
You know, the only thing that scares me about it is I think it's
so, like, I felt bad about it for like a solid year and a half. I was cleaning out their car seat. I took all the covers off, whatever, and I'm shaking all the Cheerios out of it, whatever, and out falls this card.
I don't want to give those keys away. I don't like that.
I picked it up. I went to the computer. There's all the photos. Somehow, when I was putting her in, or whatever, it must have been in my pocket or
My God.
who knows, but it
both
was in
sides
her
of the
car
transaction.
seat.
Oh, you?
Right,
I
yeah,
was getting some credits for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And thankfully,
Great.
before I started hosing it off, it fell out, and so
How's the family, Mikey?
Good. Yours?
that's my goal.
Well, I still only got one, but he's enough to keep you busy.
Another one, yeah?
I'm sure
Oh, the mics are here. Excellent.
it'll happen when I Yeah, exactly.
Are we on camera? Oh, I was gonna text us, turn on a wave.
Yes, you are
How
live
you doing?
and open for business. You're like cut off right there.
So, Katie, are you just working up at the
Oh, right. Where
Here, hold on.
Second call. I lost the room for years.
All the water out of the water. Badgers on the water bed. But it wasn't a wedding.
We'll be back golfing today, so I figured I should stop it for a little bit.
Mike, can I sneak
Hey.
behind you?
Oh, we're doing super good.
I don't know. It is just one came out. Yeah, no, it's all, if I transferred it out, it would be
So you must.
many pages and,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I'm Julie.
it's just that they would pull online.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, this is,
Well, I had a car appointment this morning, so.
just that original comparison spreadsheet, but that's,
Yeah,
it's not really,
worked out
it still
good.
has some information on there that's sure.
Actually,
Good to know, but,
Nice to meet you.
it still has the open option on there, like I didn't.
Nice. But you're located here too? Okay.
Nice.
Well, you only have the one, you have the nurse retired. So,
As it's.
I mean, okay.
Like, I'm totally cool going over spreadsheet.
That's right. Yeah.
Jay, you ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, go ahead. Ready, set, go. Hi, welcome. Oh, why? You don't want to hang out with us?
Oh, come on in. Haven't seen you in forever. Hi.
Is your handiwork or?
It's like old home week. Wow. Hope you guys like the new building. Did a great job on it. Michelle Lyons, if you don't know me, I am the chair for the MLS Task Force. That's dealing with all the
She's not.
lovely information that you're going to see here. So thank you very much for coming. And I'm going to hand it over to Miranda and let her control it from there. And let us know if you have any questions. Thanks.
Morning.
Morning.
How's it going? So the purpose of today's gathering is what North Star has folder. So who got like a notification said you need permission or something like that, we don't like you when you tried to open it. A couple people did, and that's okay. So here's the process for that, just so you guys know. So all of our protected association documents and minutes, our financials, our budget, our strategic plan, all of that stuff is on our website. Yeah, so the only thing is, instead of making that open and available to everybody, including non-members, we have to put it behind a password. A free solution that we found for you is to use Google Drive and use sign-ins that way. There are other solutions that we can use that maybe could sync up a little bit better, and you wouldn't have to have a Google account, but it would also cost you money. So I thought this option might work for you guys. Sound good? Awesome. So to have a Gmail account, you just have to sign up for an account with Google. If you have requested access to it, we get a little email that says, Tom Henderson, this document. What we do then is we go in and verify that Tom Henderson is indeed a member, and we add his Google account to our membership file, and then we share all of our stuff to that login format. Okay, does that make sense? So periodically we go in there and we update all of the logins and take out, this is gonna be interesting, non-members, add our new members, that sort of thing. But if at any point you request access to a document, we'll add you in for everything. So if you go in to see the financials in 2 months, you should be fine and it shouldn't work. So that's just kind of how that process works. We're not trying to keep anybody out that should have access to it, but we don't know all of your Google accounts. Anybody who did have a Gmail account, we preloaded because we knew that was good to go with Google. But your own brokerage emails, you can actually sign up for a Google account using that and get access that way too if you haven't already. Any questions on that part of it? Cool. Okay, so want to re-emphasize again, because we're going over these fields does not mean a determination has been made on the MLS merger. That is still going to a membership vote via electronic means. Okay. What we're doing right now, what the MLS Task Force, Options Task Force, has been doing is negotiating some items that are important to our members with North Star to make sure they're included in the agreement we have with them going forward. The other thing we're going through and making sure is just this, that the fields that we have in our MLS that are important to our members are included in North Star when we convert over. Some of them are there, some of them are not. And then the last thing I guess that we'll go through is just kind of the rules and regulations that North Star has compared to what we have. It should be substantially similar. Some number of years ago, there was this initiative that we kind of went in together on, and let's try and streamline and consistency. So a lot of it is similar, but that's been 8 years, something. So there's going to be a few differences in there now. Just turn the sound off on my phone before I forget. Actually, I'm doing this just to demonstrate a reminder to all of you to make sure you do this well. It's not that I forgot. No, I'm just kidding. So this spreadsheet, just want to give you the lay of the land on it a little bit. And those of you, Jason, do we have people online?
We do.
Okay, those of you who are online, the link should be on the YouTube video there in the comments or the description. You can go ahead and log in. If you get that permission thing, just give it a couple of minutes. Someone from our staff, meaning Laura, who's the only one not currently managing this meeting, will add your access so you can get in, but you might be able to stay here. I'll try and call things out. But lay of the land of this thing. These are just the fields that are different. Okay? You'll notice that price isn't on here. It doesn't mean that price isn't going to be in the North Star MLS. It means the fields are the same between Lake Superior MLS and North Star MLS. So not on the spreadsheet. These are just things where there were some differences. What else do I want to say about that? Some of this touches on whether or not it's required, but not entirely. Some of this ends up in different areas, if you will. So like we'll get to, for example, Zillow distribution, how they have a separate tool that actually handles this part where we do it through fields in the MLS. So there'll be a few things there, and I'll go through those. You'll notice this spreadsheet has a number of tabs for each of the classes that we have in the MLS. Starting with our single-family residential, our rental class, which we don't actually have right now, but they do. So that's basically empty right now, but it's there for reference. Multifamily, lots of lands, farm, and then commercial. So these are the changes. Most of the changes that are on the residential form classes, we didn't reiterate them because that would be silly to go through them 5 times, right? So assume that things like LSAR area are on all of our property classes, and what you see on this first sheet is going to continue through those other classes. The other thing we did on here was try to color code it based on what kind of change it is. So I added this little key at the top. So if it's green, we are going to request that North Star MLS incorporate those fields into their database. If it's orange, there's some changes there. You might be losing some things, you might be keeping some things. It's a combination of both. If it's red, the MLS Options Task Force has decided that we don't need that field, or it's covered somewhere else, or it just isn't used enough or isn't needed in the new database. Questions so far?
Is North Star open to playing nice with this stuff as far as adding these things that we'd be requesting?
So I have already had a discussion with one of the staff members at North Star who's primarily handling the data conversion or Woodley. With one or two exceptions, pretty much everything we went through this entire list. Pretty much everything that I brought to their attention was that it was a problem. So, and actually, they have started shopping around how we do our waterfront fields, how we do the access, the type, the frontage. Theirs is a little bit different. And the view, actually. They are, even without us necessarily merging, they said, hey, we like how you do it better. We think that's a better way to do it. We're gonna start shopping it to our members and see if we can get that through as a change. So, yes. The other information I have is, so the Southeast Minnesota Realtors Association that had their own wholly owned incorporated MLS in Rochester, so this is in Rochester. They merged in 9 months ago, something like that, within a year. And they were really receptive to the fields that they wanted added because they had, that's kind of farm country. They've got some different things there that the Metro wasn't used to. So they incorporated most of those. Greater Lakes and when they merged in, now this one was about 6, 7, 8 years ago, somewhere in there. It's all blurred, just one wild ride. They incorporated a lot of waterfront fields at that point as well. So yes, they've been very receptive to these changes. Where you might have an issue, and we'll talk about it, is if we've got like a rule change. Not necessarily like fields, because they can do some customizing as well, where if it's a Lake Superior MLS user, certain fields will come up that might not come up with somebody who subscribes to St. Paul, for example. We want to stay away from that as much as possible because, of course, if you see it and you see it, but the other 14,000 users in there don't see it, it's not, it gets a little problematic, I'll say. So we want to try and stay away. There might be places where it makes sense, but we just want to keep that in mind that we want to keep it as consistent across the entire database as possible. So, all right, anything else before we jump in? I would say if you have questions about the field I'm on, please ask. If it's about another field that we're not talking about, jot it down because I might get to it down on like line 69, 68, whatever, down in the spreadsheet. So hang with me because it is kind of long.
Are these lights dimmable?
I'm sorry, they're not dimmable. That was not a request that was made. We can look at getting a quote for replacing all the lighting fixtures and making dimmable. I can turn it off. Do you want me to turn it off? Would that be better?
I can turn it off.
I
I'll
got it. It's right here, right?
I wanted to
Yeah, it's
say,
lighter. Is that better?
yeah, way
Are we
better.
okay?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, even better. No, that's good.
Really?
Now, can you see?
We're good.
Amanda?
Well, I can see my screen. Don't start throwing stuff at me, they
Okay.
won't be able to identify the culprit, but. All right, let's see.
Yeah, I'm the culprit.
I'm gonna.
Don't make
you
that
probably can't.
There we go.
Okay, so, as I'm going through this, notice how these colored boxes run off the page. But notice how you can, I'm short, but you can see it there, okay? Right? That's what's in the entire box, okay? Okay, so starting at the top with subtype, okay? So North Star doesn't currently have this field. They're handled in style and yearly seasonal. So we put this as green. We said incorporate all of the LSAR options into the current North Star MLS field. So this is going to be an example of all the options that you're used to: condo, single family. There's seasonal in there in this particular subtype. There's going to be a spot to put them in North Star MLS, but they're going to incorporate it into their style and yearly seasonal fields. Everything's covered. It's going to move a little bit, some of it, but it's all there. Okay, so consider that green. Everything's still going to be there, even if it's a different checkbox or spot that you're used to. Okay, LSR area, just go right into that. The task force is recommending that we only retain the Duluth and Superior City neighborhoods. Okay. Reason for that being, most of the other areas are like counties, which we already have a field for county. Some of them are split, St. Louis County, for example, is North St. Louis County, Southeast and Southwest St. Louis County. Who knows where that line is? Me either. Okay, so that's the primary reasons for that change.
What about like, Pike Lake, Midway, that field, because that's not a city, that's not a county, that's an area.
Well, the question then, okay, so you said Pike Lake.
Yeah, because I think is it Pike Lake, Midway, I can't remember.
There's Proctor Midway.
No, Proctor is Proctor Midway, but Pike Lake is like something else.
It's not rural Duluth.
Yeah, it's not Pike Lake.
So,
But I think what you're telling me is, I'm looking for property on Pike Lake.
Sure.
Okay, so there's a
Well, then
lake,
you could search by lakefront, but I mean, but
Well,
about
like
houses that aren't
Castle
lakefront?
that might be a thing,
Mhm.
but sticking with Pike Lake.
Yeah.
So if they're really looking for
That
Pike Lake
area.
property,
But not on the lake.
not on the lake, so they're looking for a map search, maybe around that area?
Yeah. Do people really do that very often?
Yeah.
Yes.
The only one.
I'm gonna ask somebody who's not me, maybe Michelle, to take notes on some of these things, because there's no way I can process all that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So, does that address Pike Lake?
I mean, there are other ways that I can find Pike Lake, to maybe people that aren't very tech savvy that are.
Or just find it down.
Because right now you'd be searching rural Duluth,
Or rural Duluth, or
which
whatever,
is
Midway and
Solway,
certain Elsa
Kenosha,
area, yeah.
you know.
But like Saginaw and all that, they have their own cities, so like Saginaw's its own city, so I can. certainly
And
say
that one
that,
ends
but
up in southeast or southwest.
Southwest
St. Louis
or
County.
southeast, yeah.
See, nobody even knows.
So a lot of those I can see, just making sure it's not a issue for.
So basically, you're asking for us to add more areas than we already have,
No,
because we don't have Pike Lake as an area right now.
well, it'd be considered rural Duluth, but rural Duluth is not its own city.
Would we keep the roads like Rural Duluth, Proctor?
That's what I'm
Midway,
saying.
Bayview?
The only neighborhoods we would keep, neighborhoods,
So rural
LSR
Duluth
area
go away.
neighborhoods are the ones in the city of Duluth and Superior. Billings Park, Condon,
Rural Duluth go away,
Denfeld, Hunters Park, Kenwood,
Those are staying, you're saying?
those are staying. The rural Duluth, all the county ones, you mentioned.
Just this Castle Danger sticks out as one that people want,
Sure.
Gunflint,
So we'll be losing Greater Grand Marais.
Yeah.
that's the proposal now. Now, as I go through these, I should have started out with this. These documents have been posted for a few weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks, something like that, with a request to provide feedback. I suspect, and I know a lot of you have looked at these because we have gotten a number of those requests to open this document. So I know people are looking at it anyway. I suspect people haven't either understood, kind of as we're having this conversation right now, or just haven't gotten through it all the way. But right now, we haven't actually gotten any field-specific feedback for the task force to reconsider. So, bad news is potentially good news, I hope, although history's proven that's not exactly. But if you have feedback on these things, and Michelle, take notes today and get that down, if there's specific requests to include things, let us know. But if we don't hear anything, we're gonna assume you're cool.
Where are you going on this? What were you gonna show us?
Oh, I was looking for Castle David, because I don't know that it's even in a thing right now.
we should do the drawing of the map, but
So Castle Danger isn't an area now unless it's combined with something else.
no, but city and shore.
City and shore, that
So
is.
are we gonna lose, if we start losing these rural,
So city and shore would go away too.
that would be my only suggestion for the shore folks.
But specifically, are you saying we need to keep city and shore?
Yeah, we need people to be able to search the North Shore, because when you do the radius, then you're into Wisconsin for a good chunk of them.
Well, you can draw like a box.
Yep, so that's how we do it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can save those shapes too, by the way,
Right.
so you don't have to redraw it every time. But, I want to, not to discount what you're saying, I want to make sure we're addressing all of it. There's, of course, alternatives to anything, but if it's causing too much anxiety and it's too challenging, well then let's look at it, you know what I mean?
And City and Shore would help the North Shore agent.
City and Shore.
I don't use that. I've never used it. Greater Grand Marais.
Greater Grand Marais. No, tell me about Greater Grand Marais.
It's basically the Gunflint Trail. I don't think we have a
We do have that function.
Do we? Okay.
So, and when we added Greater Grand Marais, the understanding that I had from the folks in the Arrowhead was, we need to search for, Grand Marais is a huge city, right? I mean, map or, coastal city wise, it's really big.
Yes.
So they wanted to have Grand Marais, but not in the city. Therefore, we have Greater Grand Marais. So that would be one that you would be sad.
Yeah.
Would you cry about that?
Yes. Okay, that. Okay.
Greater Grand Marais. Yeah. Okay, but Gunflint, you're saying then?
But then like all the other city folks are.
Just one second. I thought we had already gotten rid of that.
You did, and then you guys cried, so we added it back. See, we love you, we want you to be happy, that's the conversation. So, yeah, that was one that we had taken away, which is
Okay.
kind of a funny story,
Yeah.
but, I went off there and everyone's like, why'd you take that? I'm like, because you said it was okay. And they're like, it's not, it's okay, we'll get it, it's okay.
I didn't know it was that.
Year and a half, maybe, maybe two, something like that. But yeah, that one's it. So, but we're not real, but Greater Grand Marais is one that we, okay. So yeah, all those other ones, Jamie, I'm sorry.
I would just, your stick, like Esco, Colgate, all those are still just the city or no?
Just the city. 'Cause
Yeah.
you can- If I want to find a property in the city of Esco, I don't need to search by LSCR area Esco, I
So
search by
just
city
by the city.
Esco.
Yep, okay, that's fine.
I will tell you, this particular field is one of them that we get the most correction button clicks on.
Yeah.
This isn't Piedmont, is usually what it says.
Yes.
Lower speed.
Lower.
Yeah.
I mean,
You-
we can see it's pretty liberal with Piedmont.
We
Let's
need
be
it
honest.
to
Okay, just saying. So,
It just sounds like discrimination against rural areas. Cities count, cities wins, but
well,
rural
tell me
areas
more
don't
about
count.
that. What do you mean by discrimination?
I mean, you're eliminating anything that's not a city.
So give me an example. What do you want to search
You just
by?
did, the ones that we're talking about
Cast
here.
danger.
Rural Duluth. It's
Okay.
not in the city.
So when you search for
that's-
rural Duluth, what are you really looking for?
Say it again.
When you say, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna search rural Duluth as an LSAR area, what are you really looking for? Like, what is that client trying to find exactly?
Land in the country.
Acreage,
Yeah.
land in the country, still pretty close to amenities within the city, right? So if you did filters for acreage, whatever else they want, size of the house, whatever, would that still, and you draw maybe a radius out from, I don't wanna be more than 20 minutes away from the center of Duluth. If you drew that circle out, and you looked for the acreage and all the other things in there, would you still get there? Would they maybe find some properties that they
Maybe a
didn't
couple
know
more
they wanted?
steps, but you'd still get there.
Yeah.
It's just
So
simple
let's take
way.
Bob's example, let's say you put in rural Duluth as your LSR area that you wanna search.
Yeah.
Let's say the perfect house is in Saginaw. They don't see it. Saginaw's still about 20 minutes to town. Maybe
Sagan's
half hour.
not rural Duluth, Sagan's.
Exactly, but we're searching by rural Duluth, so if we take those, I'll call them subjective fields out,
Sure.
it's probably gonna help your clients at the end of the day.
Sure.
Yeah, it might be a couple more steps.
Not
You
any
know.
less subjective than all the divisions within Duluth.
Well, Duluth has neighborhood maps, and we do point to the city maps, and that's what we go on. So that subjectivity, objectivity is taken out of it, because I've got a map, and I can go at it and say, it is, it isn't.
Sure.
Superior's a little different. They do have some neighborhoods, but not as defined as ours, and quite frankly, not useful to you. There's only like 3 or 4. So, true for Superior.
Just saying.
I'll take it. But I think most of the ways you're searching, you're trying to search. Listen, if we could get rid of it altogether, that'd be cool with me. This is a compromise.
Through
North Star is the mapping tool similar, easier, better? I mean, how does it compare? I'm not a North Star member.
So here's the cool thing about our options with North Star that haven't been a reality before this year. There's two, and I think I mentioned them in some of our other meetings. Thing one, you have the option to use the Paragon software, okay? So we're talking about field changes. So if I go into, our goal is not to trip today. If I go into my search screens or my report screens, I'm gonna see what is the North Star database. So it's gonna be a little different. The layout's gonna be a little different. Something that maybe was a feature before is maybe its own field now. So that's gonna take some getting used to, because there's two parts to this. There's a software that you use, which is Paragon, to interact with the database, which is on the back end, which is all listing data and that sort of stuff. How it's organized, what type of field it is, how long is the field, is it required, is it not? All of that stuff is on the database end. So we're looking at changing our database to North Stars, merging our data in with these changes that we're going over today. You will still have the option to use Paragon, the software, on top of that new database. So the mapping functionality will be the same.
Okay.
There is one small caveat to that, and that is where you would put your listings in here. North Star has built a separate tool for you to input listings. So that's the only area that you wouldn't use. All listing input and maintenance would happen through their, what they call their add edit tool. When I go to search for listings, look at reports, set up auto evals, the rest of this is the same. This listings button here is not there anymore. Well, I don't know, it might be there, but it might be empty, I don't know. Yeah.
So if we are using the Paragon front end, will we only see the listings for our area, like in new listings on the homepage, or will we see?
So again, two parts, right? Software, database, okay? Database is North Star's database, all umpteen thousand listings.
So when
Okay.
we click on new listings on any given day, we're gonna see everything for the Twin Cities as well.
If you want to,
Yeah, customize
if you want to, because you can customize it. And we can, actually, when we used to pull that data in, a lot of agents did that. Unfortunately, now they're realizing that they added some filters that they didn't want in there, and they're missing listings sometimes. We get that call pretty frequently too. Yeah, you would have access to everything on your market monitor. If you wanted to filter it, you can do that. Same way you do a search. The market monitor is basically an automatic search. Key.
Are we all or nothing? If we do decide to merge and Michael likes to look at Paragon and I like to look at North Star, can we do that? Or is it we are all on Paragon and we are all?
So North Star is an MLS, it is not an MLS software.
Right.
Paragon is an MLS software, and CoreLogic Matrix
Or CoreLogic, okay.
is an MLS software. You would have the option to do whichever software you liked. Database is still the same, okay?
But we could
So
have,
even in offices, is that what you're
correct,
saying?
yeah.
Correct,
In offices, you can have different,
correct.
Okay.
As a brokerage, I would consider how you want that to work though.
Can I ask you a dumb question?
I
So,
love those,
are we gonna be, would we then in theory be North Star?
yes.
Okay,
So,
LSAR goes away?
so LSR is what? Lake Superior Area Realtors, yes, it's not the MLS. 'Cause what
Okay.
else do we do here? We do education, we help you with your
Sure.
CE, we do advocacy, we do events, we do all that stuff. One of the things we do happens to be MLS.
Sure.
That we would be contracted with
Gotcha.
North Star to provide that one service.
Okay.
for instance, in the cities, they've got St. Paul Association in Minneapolis.
Right.
They used to have more, I believe.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. The other thing that we're kind of segueing right now, but we'll do it anyway. The other thing we've negotiated with North Star is that the MLS support still happens out of this office, and we have negotiated some funding for that. So Jason is still here. We still have that position filled. So if you've got an issue with Paragon or the MLS or whatever, you'll still call us, and we'll still help you through that process. So we would have some learning to do with CoreLogic, because we're gonna assume that some of you want to use CoreLogic. We'd still have that responsibility. MLS rule enforcement would go to North Star. So if you get a fine or whatever, you'll get new notifications, different than what we have about that sort of thing. If there's an issue there, you can talk to us. There is like this, I know Bob, and he lives out in the country, and I know he doesn't have good internet or whatever, and the power was off for 3 days and he got his listing in late, but I know Bob and he's legit, so it's okay that he put it in late. There is that communication that we can have with Northstar
Sure.
as well. So, but officially, all the enforcement will go through that.
Through North Star.
Correct.
Does an individual have the right to use both Paragon and North Star upfront?
Okay, so let's reestablish Paragon and Matrix, right? Two software, those are the same. Apple,
Right, got it.
Paragon, CoreLogic, Matrix system, yes. It's additional $5 per month, I think, if you want to use both, because we have to pay both software companies for the users, but yes.
So I can use both.
Yeah, if there's something you like in one more than the other, fine. If you want to choose Paragon or Matrix, it doesn't matter, it costs the same. If you want to have access to both software systems, then there's like a $5
Well, that's the
additional
only
charge,
way, there's an extra fee.
which I don't think many people will do, but it is possible, so. Any other questions? Okay. Now let's see our area. Any others? I know, right? Like that was yesterday that we were talking about that. Good, okay. Township name, we've requested that it's added and that it is required. Stop me if there's questions on the field again, otherwise I'm gonna assume you're like, yeah, that's fine. Val address include and this Zillow move list hub distribution that we have. They have a separate tool that still disperses the listings wherever you want them to go. So we don't need a specific field, those are gonna be taken out, but the same thing is still gonna happen, you'll still be able to control that. Bath level 1, 2, 3, and 4. They don't have these fields, the task force decided it was a non-issue because it's covered under their other fields that North Star has. Have fun. Bye. We got to line 10. See you later, Matt, for bed. Have a good day. Not to mention, there's been a lot of confusion with our members on this particular field. What does bath level 1 mean? Well, if you ask MLS staff, they'll be like, your main bath, what floor is it on? So people don't really get to it. If you ask somebody else, they might see like, I don't know. There's, on level 1, there's 3 baths, that would be a lot. There's 2, I don't know. On level 2, there's 0. So we have determined that that field's not awesome anyway, or those fields aren't awesome anyway. And the MLS committee is actually looking at changing them. So it all fits well. This is the opinion thing. Style, we're saying must add as a required field. And so this last little note, also must have the ability to list mobile manufactured without land. They do not currently allow that. That's a rule thing. That's one area that I don't know where it's gonna end up at. We didn't for a long time, so I'm talking about mobile homes and parks basically, or on this land. We didn't allow that for a really long time, and then we changed that. In talking with a lot of other MLSs, they don't allow it. I don't know if we're doing something wrong. I guess we'll find out.
They don't have as many mobile home parks as we do probably. We have a ton of them, so that's why it came up the first time.
I mean, outside of North Star, like the other MLSs in the state don't seem to have that a lot of the time. So anyway, we are saying that the style has to be added. We want it as a required field. Last note, is whether or not we'll be able to do that mobile home without land or not. The argument I made to them is, well, do you allow business only to go in? Well, yeah. Well, there's no real estate there either. This is a good point. So we'll see. Just saying. Property type, this is equivalent to North Star style field. We said that's a non-issue, we'll use their format. Stories, the only thing that's different here is they don't have 3, 3.25 to 3.75 and 4 plus. Just goes to, I think, 2 plus or something like that, and they called it a day. Task force said, that's fine, it works for us. Salaries name, this is actually a carryover from the Superior MLS.
They do it on the range too.
Oh, really? Okay. So Superior had this salary name field and had it in as required in the MLS. The task force is saying we don't need it. North Star doesn't have it.
Is there a reason that it was in there?
That Superior had it?
Yeah.
So my understanding is that in some of these smaller communities, they know properties more by who owns them than by the address.
That would be correct.
That's, you know what, I like that,
Where
you know?
roads aren't,
You know,
right?
it's just, yeah, exactly, it's Kane's place up the road, you know? That's why it's, and that's, you know, difference in markets and localities and that sort of thing, so. But task force is recommending not to add that. Bonus, yes, no, this field is almost never used, and all you can, it's just a yes, no field, and it's not required, there's no amount, and of course it has to be without any, contingencies on it. So we said to go ahead and take it out. If there's a bonus and you want to communicate it, you can do it through the agent remarks. Of course, unconditional. Okay, so if you're offering a bonus in the MLS, let's say I'll give you a $5,000 bonus if you sell this listing. It has to be unconditional. A condition would be it has to close by such and such date. It has to be, I don't know. So that's the one that usually happens. I don't even know.
Can't say that.
You're saying it can't say that?
That's correct. Offers of compensation in the MLS are unconditional. One condition, one exception being hearing costs. Of course. But other than that, all offers of compensation communicated through the MLS are unconditional.
So if somebody puts something in there today,
Sure.
that's okay
That's
If
what
it
the
says
correction.
$5,000 selling bonus,
for.
that's okay. If it says, if it says $5,000 selling bonus, that's okay. If it says $5,000 selling bonus if closing before August 31st, that's not okay. The closing date is a condition. So it needs to be unconditional. That's been a rule for a while. Aren't you glad? You're welcome.
But people can send out flyers on that, just don't put it in the MLS.
Miranda, you want
What
to
y'all
show?
do outside the MLS is.
Not even-
It's along with the code of ethics and statute, you know, yes, ma'am.
Do you want to show where the correction button is real quick while we're here?
Sure, we can do that. Since Mike brought up this example, let's say you do see a property that says $5,000 selling bonus that closes by August 31st.
Switch foot.
It's a switch button. Do you know how much your fellow members love that button?
I love that button. That button's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Let me ask a favor for you if you want to get in on the snitch button though. If you see a property, if you see a property, and let's say, so this one says it's 0.22 acres, and I hit this correction button and I say, not 0.22 acres. If you know what it is, can you tell me what you think it ought to be? I'm still gonna double check, but we get an awful lot of, you know, this isn't such and such, whatever, this isn't in Duluth. Well, okay, like,
Where is it?
yeah, just help me out, if the taxes aren't right on this. Just give me a little clue. I mean, like I say, I'm still gonna go double check before I fix it, but, that would make my life better.
Are you fixing it or you're sending it to the listing agent?
So it depends on what it is. So let's say it's taxes, and I pull up the tax records, and I see the tax records reflect this other amount. It's not listed in the MLS. Generally, I would just change it, and I would send an email to that agent saying, hey, just want to let you know, I changed the tax amount based on the attached tax records here. Please let me know if this is incorrect. Usually they say, hey, thanks, you're so amazing, we're so happy you work at the association. That's what 99% of people respond with. Ish, 99.5 maybe. If it's, so here's another one we get a lot. This isn't a 4-bedroom. Bedrooms is it? I put it in a house. That's a situation where I'll email the listing agent saying, we have a report that this isn't a 4-bedroom. Can you double check the MLS and verify? And we say, use whatever local ordinance where the property is located, because there's different rules based on where the property is. You know, it's Hibbing is going to be different than the city of Duluth. And that's it. There's not really any fine there because I don't know that it's wrong. So, no. Now, if it's what I like to call my frequent flyers, because we try to be pretty accommodating. you get the taxes wrong, you make a mistake, whatever, it's not a big deal, we just go in and fix it, because we want the data to be right, and it makes everybody happier if we just go in and take care of it and let you know. If I see correction buttons coming in for you multiple times in a week or a month, the conversation is going to change a little bit. We're going to say, you need to do data entry better, and there's fines that will be coming if you can't be better about your listing input. And we have some of those.
Yeah.
But usually, if we don't see it real often, we just make it better for everybody. It's kind of our unwritten policy on that. The written policy says everybody gets fined. But
And is there, I'm seeing more of what actually is being input into the MLS, where they.
comp listings. Yeah.
But then they give you no information.
So, but that's a common thing that we get. And the only explanation I have for that
Right.
is the required fields are required fields whether you're putting a property on the market or whether you're putting it as a comp. They're still the same. If you find they're not putting in the required field information, that's a different story. For example, taxes is a required field. Let's say they're just lazy and they put in 0. Okay, that's fineable because taxes are there, it's a real number, and you put in 0 because you're too lazy to look it up or whatever, or maybe you're busy. That is fineable. However, let's look at something like room information. Room information isn't required. Now, you put it in when you have your listing on the market because you want to sell it, right? After it's already sold, how much time you have and putting all that information in becomes less important.
Yep.
So the required fields are the required fields no matter what. It's your mindset when you put in a listing for comp purposes versus you're putting it on the market that affects the data quantity.
My request is if you do that, please put lots of good information.
Which is a good request.
Yeah, but if you
If
you only show it once, you're going out there with the measuring tape and measuring every single room before you write up the purchase agreement so you can put it in later for comp purposes, probably not.
I do, but.
I do.
Yep.
That's why you guys are my favorite. I'm really snarky today, I don't know why. Oh, good. Okay, so back to the correction button then. There's this button. So let's say you see Mike's listing later and it says $5,000 closed by August 31st. You go, that's not right. I was just in a meeting with, I found out that wasn't correct. You can hit this correction button and say, this isn't the right city or whatever. I have it sometimes. And then you hit send. That sends an email to our info account. You can see right here, info@lsarrealtors.com. It has your message there, the listing information, who reported it, and the listing agent. So what we do from there is kind of the process there. You said, depending on what it is, we'll look, maybe we'll just change it. Maybe we have to reach out to the other agent, whatever it happens to be. We don't go to, this happens to be Tim Levels listening. We don't go to Tim and say, hey Tim, Jamie said that your information is wrong and you're getting a fine.
Yeah.
If we have to follow up with them, we just say we have a report that this is incorrect or whatever, and we want to verify. Because that seems to work best.
Yep. So don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. Yeah, and again, it's about data quality because this whole conversation is completely worthless if data quality doesn't do us anything. So, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's
Getting off track.
This is kind of, you know what, I'm having fun. Hope you all are too. Okay. Okay, consent to email and email for delivery. This is Wisconsin things. The task force did some research with the legal hotline in Wisconsin and determined that we've kind of been misusing this. The consent for email is between seller and their agent, not between
Agent to agent.
license there right now, not for agent to agent. So people were misinterpreting it and not using it. Why was it ever in there in the first place anyway? And I'm like, I don't know. That just was. So that's why they're taking it out. I see nodding heads from Wisconsin.
Well, just because it makes sense.
So that's being seems like it should be there.
If we do the merge, are you gonna take that out?
That's a good question. We probably should. The committee hasn't actually had that conversation. But probably, yes. Do you happen to know the chair that's great? Do you know who it is? Okay. Right. So that might be something that may have addressed.
It's on the topic, it's on the topic.
I can find people to tell to make sure that that gets happened.
It's Tom. Tom Acton.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
either way.
But yeah, no worries. But yes, Mike Kellett was for decades.
Decades.
Mike, were you chair at MLS? You were of the Technology
Technology
Advancement
committee,
Committee that I still hear about on occasion, but
until you put me out to pasture.
I know, right?
Put us out to pasture.
Okay, fractional ownership, yes or no? They didn't have those. We said we need them for our timeshare properties. Really, that's not as much of a thing there.
I was wondering what that was
Oh yeah, that's like timeshare. They have a
I was
half
like,
share, quarter share.
When do I put a different number than 100%?
Okay. Occupied by, North Star doesn't identify this for security reasons, which makes some sense. And the options here are owner, vacant, tenant. We're like, yeah, that makes sense. So that one, occupied by, is suggested for removal. Listing type, they didn't have comp input, but they had some other kind of, like one time showing option or something like that, that would address that. We had this comp input as a listing type for, the properties that get input after sale. They might have called it one time showing or something like that, but we felt like that fit sufficiently. Room level, they have basement, lower, main, upper, and third story. They don't have second floor or fourth floor. Said that makes sense, we'll go with what they have. Room remarks, they do not have this field, however, they do have their custom, I guess you would say, is they add the remarks on the photo. So let's say you take a picture of the bedroom, you put the remarks there, which you can do now in Paragon as well. But, so we said that's okay, that works for us. Remodel, addition, yes, no, they decided to say no. Foundation dimensions, this is one that we said you must add foundation dimensions and have it as required field. Right now, they just have square footage of the foundation, basically, which we decided we wanted a little more information there. Utility cost information, they don't have these fields. Task Force is not recommending adding them. They looked at usage, it wasn't real high for people with added data in those fields. It's kind of nice to have, but you can add it in the remarks. Again, all these things I'm saying are just recommendations. If you don't like it, send an email or raise your hand and say I don't like it. It's totally fine. Fireplace type, they didn't have decorative, we asked them to add it. Waterfront type, okay, so I'm gonna take all the waterfront fields kind of in whole because this is developed after we did this. We're asking them to use our waterfront fields. So we've got waterfront access, which is shared, public, private, yeah, all those. And then we have waterfront type, Lake River Stream, or whatever, police field are still on there. So all of our waterfront fields assume that they're just gonna basically use those because that's what they're proposing right now. So that's our goal there. Classification for right now, we have one classification for Minnesota and a zoning for Wisconsin. We're gonna kind of combine them. Let's see. Does not have managed forest or mixed use. We have asked them to incorporate forestry into their fields, but otherwise we'll use them pretty much the same. The zoning field for Wisconsin will be incorporated into the classification field is what they call it. It'll all just kind of live there. So general classification of properties. Insurance fee, they decided to take this out because the task force didn't even really know what it was. So we said we don't need that anymore. So that's done. Auction site, this is, if the auction is like a website or if it's a physical location, you would put that there. North Star doesn't have it. The task force felt like it wasn't used or needed enough to add it, so they're suggesting it's removed. Internal advertising, not a lot of agents necessarily use this, but it's kind of handy. So internal advertising is, let's say you want to use Paragon to print flyers or something like that for your property, and you want to be able to say, call Bev, a super awesome realtor that you can trust in your remarks, okay? That would be fineable if you put it in the public remarks, right? Because she's promoting herself. Internal advertising, you can use that field to say how awesome you are along with the house and print it on your flyers. There's nothing wrong with that. Internal advertising does not go out in the IDX feed, so there's no issue of personal promotions there. So we asked them to add it. So, questions on that? It's kind of handy. Not a lot of people use it, but you can if you want to use Paragon to build flyers. Matrix, to my understanding, does not have the robust reporting system like Paragon does. It's pretty limited in what output you can have, so they didn't really need this field because, again, there wasn't a lot of options there. Basement material and basement style. They did not have slab/engineers report, and we've asked them to add that, otherwise incorporating everything into the areas that they already have. Basement features, they don't have this specific field, but most of the things are covered in other areas. We said that's okay, we'll go with what you have. Construction type, we must have that. Done. So we've asked them, we're actually surprised it's there, so. Exterior, they don't have asphalt or composition, and we said that's not an issue. There are other areas for those that are covered. They have an other.
Oh, no, LP smart siding is a thing, and they need to see it. Can we use that?
Well, okay, so that's a specific brand, so you're talking about composition.
Correct.
Right, okay.
We have composition, don't we?
They don't have it, and I'm trying to remember what it's covered under. Those of you who were in that room, there was another field that North Star had that I can't remember that we said it would fit there.
Yes.
Hang on, okay.
So Michelle's gonna look. Okay. Garage type, they didn't have multiple, we said we need that, we like our garages here, make sure we have multiple. So, that's gonna be added. Roof, they didn't have fiberglass shingles, living or rolled asphalt. Oh, that should not be red, actually, that should be orange.
Roofing?
Like grass. The grass.
Yeah.
That should be this color.
For
Screen
all of
went
them
crazy.
that are out there.
Yeah.
One.
Right.
Okay, that should be orange. Okay. So we've asked them to incorporate living and rolled asphalt in there, not fiberglass shingle, because they just said shingle. Look, I made a mistake. Windows, they didn't have a windows field. Task force said, most people put it in wrong anyway. So let's just get rid of it. Dining, they didn't have breakfast bar, we asked them to add it. Finished attic room, they didn't have, and we said that's okay, stick with what you got. Bath description, they didn't have quarter basement, we said that'll be okay. Okay, then we get into the Northwoods here. Sewer, they didn't have compost or outhouse, surprisingly, for a metropolitan area, so we said they kind of need those, and they'll be adding them.
That's surprising because they even bring your legs. I can't believe that there are a couple.
All right, there was a couple areas where we're like,
Why don't they have? I don't think they have them.
yeah, so, we said we kind of need those two things. Yes. Also, wells, they just had private, they didn't have, like, how it was, they didn't have type well, like drill, dug, so we said, please add all of those things, those are important things for us. Internet options, yes. We said we must have that field, and it must, we must have that field, and it needs to be in there. So that is the fiber optic, DSL, I don't know what the other options are in there, but what type of internet is at that property. Amenities, they didn't have these options here. Beam ceiling, center hall, drywalls, panel walls, flat walls, foyer entry, or patio door. We said that's cool. We don't need those. We're okay. Questions? I went to pass.
I mean, you'd see all those in the pictures.
Amenity is exterior. We did ask them to add wiring system. Outdoor kitchen goes lit in. Water feature. Amenities shared. Incorporate all of these options into what they have. And then association fee includes, they didn't have building insurance, but they had hazard insurance. And They didn't have recreational facilities, taxes, or telephone. We said add recreational facilities and taxes. Lot description, this is again another kind of Northwoods thing, I would say. They didn't have BWCA, Island Peninsula, or landscape. So we said incorporate peninsula into island, I think would be okay. And then we want BWCA access added as well. And what that is if you have a property that's directly connected to the BWCA or borders it, that's where you indicate that unique feature. Again, shoreline characteristics, back to our lakefront conversation, this should all be in there after they approve that through. Yes.
Sorry that it took you a really long time.
Oh, no, thank you.
Aluminum siding, block, brick, stone, cedar, cement board, engineered wood, fiberboard, hardboard, masonite, log home, log siding, metal, other, shakes, slate, steel siding, stucco, vinyl, wood.
Engineered
Wood.
awesome. Yeah.
I think the engineered wood is what we went with, because it's not a specific
Yeah.
name brand.
Yeah.
It's what it actually is.
Thank you.
Scratch that off my list, thank you.
Like there was a thing, I just can't remember what it's called. Okay, where are we at? Outbuildings, we said, yes, we need to have hot tub, lean-to, sauna, greenhouse, yeah, I'm sorry, sauna. They were curious about hot tub. They're like, is a hot tub really a building? I said, yes, to keep the mosquitoes out. And he laughed. So we asked him to add that. Road frontage, we said incorporate all those options into your field, but the reason it's orange is they have unpaved streets, we have gravel, they're the same thing, so just use what they've got. Road maintenance must add, and then just a small change to combine none into private. Parking driveway, we didn't have RV parking, Tom. We said that's what we need to have that. Please put that in there. That one's green. View, we did ask them to incorporate all the view options that we have as well. That's part of their lake waterfront proposal that they're working on right now. They had kind of combined waterfront and view. It was a little strange. So they're kind of going with our format is what they're looking at right now. They didn't have black pool. I know I've seen hundreds of properties with black pools in them. We said we didn't need it. Appliances, they didn't have dehumidifier. We said we didn't need that. Mechanicals, we asked them to incorporate. Okay, so they didn't have, we have water heater and all the types of fuel for it listed. We asked them to add all of those. Power company, we asked them to add. And I think that's another thing that they're actually working on outside of the merger now, is adding that in addition to the township main one, actually. Restrictions, had snow restrictions, they said that wasn't an issue. Terms, we asked them to incorporate all of the terms. Possession, they didn't have does not have this field. We said that's not an issue. Negotiable items, they didn't have all these other extra fields in there. We said that's not an issue. Disclosures, docs. This is right now, it's a feature, and we have like property reports, lead-based paint reports, hazmat report, not that exactly, something like that, but surveys in there. What kind of disclosures and documents do you have available for the property? You can go in and check those. They said we don't need that either. Agent-to-agent info, this is the feature agent-to-agent info, not to be confused with the remarks. And we said you need to add all of those except architect design. So our options there are like deferred maintenance, interior or exterior, need to major repairs, power turned off, property condemned, winterized. That's what we have there now. So please add those options in there. Showing information. This is the feature. They don't have that. We said go ahead and take it out. we've got some showing fields in the MLS. They do almost everything through showing time, which we have. It's just kind of a culture thing. This is how we've done it. But we said for this, that's okay. We can, use it for showing time or whatever, or you can always put it in the agent remarks as well. Okay. Status. This is red, but I think it's going to be okay. Because we have a lot of statuses in our MLS. We have active, we have pending taking backups, we have active with contingencies, we have active with bump, we have pending cancellation of purchase agreement, we have pending, we have sold, we have expired, we have canceled, we have rented, we have, sure I'm missing some.
Withdrawn.
Withdrawn, thank you, yeah, okay. But we have a lot of them, and they basically just have, they have just one active, and then they just have pending, sold. Off market is like a whole sheet, so I can see it. But it's very simplified. Now, most of our active status types are because there's something, like a contingency, there's something else going on there. They have a separate contingency field that addresses all those other scenarios. So the listing would be so let's say you've got a pending taking backups or an inspection contingency. See, there's one I missed. Or for Wisconsin, I've got active with bump, whatever. It all goes in as just an active status, and then there's this other contingency field where you would put in, let's say it's active with contingencies there, or if there's an offer or inspection or whatever it happens to be. So it's basically the same options, but instead of communicating all of that other stuff through the status, they put it into a separate field.
Does that still feed to Zillow, Realtor, our IDX site?
That's my question.
That was
I do not know the answer to that. And we as an MLS have gone back and forth on status 10,000 times. Another one of those issues that some people feel one way about it, some people feel another way about it. I swear we talk about it at least every quarter. So the concern is what gets communicated out to the public and all the IDX sites and portals and that sort of thing. Realtor.com communicates the status verbatim. So if it says active with contingencies, that's what the buyer will, or the consumer public will see there. Now Zillow, for example, is just for sale. None of that is on there, even for our listings right now. And then of course, everybody's IDX sites are kind of their own game too. So, so it could be anything. Now we've gone back and forth on that because of course it's, well, I'm having all these buyers call me because they want to see this property, but it's inspection and it's not going through. The one thing that that North Star has that's a little bit different that I think might help this conversation is if it's in as active, you have to allow showings on it, period. So there's none of this, it's active, it's inspection contingency active, but you can't show it.
We allow showings on, well, no, because the contract,
It depends
the
on the
purchase
contract
agreement,
says,
yeah,
so.
the purchase agreement is yes or no.
Okay, so let's say it's yes, and we're in North Star setup. Let's say you have an inspection contingency property, showings are yes, okay? Right there. You would put that in as active. Your contingency would be inspection.
Right.
You're done.
So what
Showings continue.
what if it's no then? What do you
The
mean?
status
That
would
it's
be
no, where is it
pending.
yes or no? Like, isn't it in the first?
Whether or not you
Take
still
that
show
out,
it.
are you still?
No. Did they take that out?
That got
That's
taken
not
out? Oh, that must have got taken out the last.
Oh, well, I mean, the scenario still is true. I mean, it still could still happen.
Sure.
So I'm a seller. I'm sick of people coming through my house. I've got an accepted offer, even though it's inspection contingent. I don't want anybody else coming in here.
And they could say,
And they can say that.
Yeah.
So under this scenario, so you have an offer accepted with an inspection contingency, but the seller said, I don't want anyone showing, keep those people out. Your status would be pending, and you can still put the contingency and inspection in that field.
oh, okay.
So then there's no showings. It's
Once it's pending, it should go up to Zillow anyways.
it may. In ours, we have pending status right now. But then the consumer sees that it's pending instead of active. So it is different I think it's gonna meet our needs. I think, like I
Just have
said,
to
this,
retrain everybody how to use
Yeah.
this.
and, and like I said, the status field is something that we've gone back and forth on. Depending on what side of the transaction you're on is usually how you feel about it that day. So it's not been an easy or succinct answer for us here either, to be honest.
So if we, wanna send an initial, list of properties to our potential buyers, you go active, so inspection, other ones like that too will show up? Like, not just
Yeah.
ones that are straight active?
Yeah, and let you filter on that contingency field,
So,
kind of like how we have it now. So,
no, I would just put active in the main, and then not anything on the other.
Yes, then you get
not
all.
equal to, something like that.
if you wanted to filter it on, so they want to see active properties, but they don't want to see inspection contingent
Yeah.
properties, yeah, you just filter on that other field. That's right.
Contingencies, no.
No, you've got
It's a-
mark boxes, so it says active, and then under active, it's got all inspection, so you only click on just the one that says active, you don't click on any of the other ones, you won't get any, just the only ones that are just active.
So,
No
sale of
contingencies.
another, that's one that's always been, above
Sure.
our current one, in my opinion at least. That when you go active, it doesn't
Same
show
thing.
up. So if it's this one, how would that?
Same thing.
So if you did straight active, they'd all show up. If you filter, so you actually go in and filter on the contingency field, it would not, because you're saying, I don't want to see those properties. But if you just are looking at status, yes, they would show up,
Can you,
assuming they're still allowing
can you
showings.
predict the ones you want to filter out?
Correct.
Inspection pending expired.
Correct. Did I see it over here? No. Oh, hey, look at, I see the bottom of the spreadsheet, guys. 72, I guess, not 60, sure. Okay, purchase agreement acceptance date. Now, this one is still kind of open to discussion with them as well. Apparently they had a pending date. Okay, so this is the date that the property went pending. And we're like, but what day was the contract accepted? Because they interpret pending date is when everything's clear, and it actually gets switched to pending. We're like, but when was the contract actually accepted and by all parties? Because that date is not necessarily the pending date. And it's the reason we really have it is our days on market calculate off of that. Because if I accept an offer today, is the 8th, if it doesn't go pending until the 18th, really it stopped being on the market today. It's inspection contingency, nobody's showing it anyway. That's how we calculate our days on market. It's also how we do enforcement to make sure people aren't leaving listings in as active when they should be disclosing that they've got an accepted offer. So we're working with them on that. That shouldn't really, it's really an enforcement thing here, but we've requested that they add it. We're working with them on how that might actually happen and why it's important. Okay, additional financing information. This is just a blank text field where you can put in whatever you want. Pretty much nobody uses it, so we said we don't need that. Seller's concessions, yes or no. This is just the yes, no field, not the numerical field. They just have the numerical field. So if concessions are no, you just put in 0. And it's a required field, so everybody just enters 0. So it's red because the field is going away, but it's covered through that numerical field. And then leased land, yes or no, they didn't have that, we said we need that. This list is not, we've got other tabs, but this list is not perfect, nor is it entirely complete. What I mean by that is, this is a first round of going through all the fields. This is where most of the substantial changes are. But as we go through like a second round of, and what they're waiting for right now is that we're talking to our members and getting feedback from them. After they say this is okay, or they say nothing and I assume it's okay, then we'll be ready to go through this second round of data comparison, which is like what's required, what's not, how long is the public remarks field? Pictures are unlimited. Oh, today, for the end of the day, what else? What type of field is it? Is it a numerical field? Is it an alphanumerical field? Those sorts of things. The things you guys don't really have to worry about when you're using the software, but as far as databases go, are really important. So those are all the things we'll work through in the second round. This should be most of it. There might be a few other things that come up that we've missed that we haven't talked about, whatever it might be. But this is kind of round one. Questions so far? Yes.
Are there fields on North Star that we do not have that you did not include on this list?
Yes, all of them. This field is looking at what do we have that North Star doesn't have, and what do we need to make sure the code is. So yes, I promise you, there's a bunch of other fields that North Star has that we don't have. I don't have a list of them right now.
Is there a lot that are required fields through their system?
People on North Star, help me out here. I don't know.
No, it's pretty much the main basics like we have for our main basics. There's not a ton more that I can remember off the top of my head when I'm entering a listing. I go, oh crap, that's not required in Laser, so I don't have it.
What's kind of nice about how North Star is set up with their ad edit tool is they have all the tax records. They have access to all the tax records for properties and have assured us that it covers our regions as well. We'll see how true that is. But I've got a parcel ID or whatever you want to call it, tax number, tax code. You go into their ad edit, you put the tax parcel number in there, and it preloads all of that information. So in theory, you're not needing to put in city, state, acreage, maybe baths and bedrooms. Now, if something is incorrect, you can still modify those things, of course. But it will preload all of that for you, so you're not.
Where's it pulled from? County? Okay.
I had that discussion. They're like, oh, not at all, and we better because that's where I understand. I'm like, well, we're gonna see. But what I might say is, you know, as we go through this, what might be nice is for some of you who know those areas better and know the listings better to kind of try out on some of that, because I don't know. You know, I can't pull tax records on a property and say, yeah, that's right. No, I'm gonna. So that might be a thing.
You will use, there are stuff you have to edit. St. Louis County isn't perfect in their system yet either, but the way that they keep their data is then the corrected data follows that property through until it's corrected again with that parcel code.
I'm gonna take one quick timeout and say, Jason, do we have any questions online that I need to answer?
Sherry Puckett, she asked, how will we reach the areas in Wisconsin being in a Minneapolis area MLS?
How will we reach the areas in Wisconsin being in a Minneapolis-based MLS?
Yep.
So the Minneapolis-based MLS is North Star MLS that actually already covers Western Wisconsin MLS as well. In this part of Wisconsin.
That's in your St. Croix County.
Yep.
This way. So this is Minnesota, this is Wisconsin, the nose.
Okay.
Western Wisconsin. So Wisconsin properties are already in North Star MLS. They have been for as long as I've been here, which is 15 years, probably longer. But that said, I think a lot of the changes that we're bringing forward, because we also have a number of Wisconsin people, and we're not just we're not in there by default, we're actually adding and making sure, because we spent an awful lot of time when we merged Duluth and Superior making sure that everybody had what they needed. And we're kind of doing a similar process now. So they are looking at incorporating a number of changes that address the Wisconsin stuff, but most of it is still there. Now, the term area, do we think this is related to LSAR area, or is this just a general question? LSAR area?
I assume so.
Okay, so the Superior neighborhoods will keep really the ones that we have in more eastern Wisconsin, Ashland, Bayfield are like county. We do have like City of Ashland, City of Bayfield, then we have counties. I think that's it.
Out there.
Yeah, so I think they're all already covered in other fields. But if there's something specific that you're like, hey, what about this? There's this specific LSAR area that I use all the time that isn't in Duluth or Superior proper. We need to add that. Let us know that, because I don't think there's going to be an issue there because there are the county or the city fields, but I could be wrong because I don't sell real estate there, it turns out. So let us know. Yes.
So she could possibly be talking about when you switch it over to Wirex and it goes all the way down this far.
And Wyrick still exists.
Okay.
Yeah, that's still, and Western Wisconsin is on Wyrick now through North Star, so it's kind of already set up. The pathway's already there.
One more question, Jonathan Thornton. It would be great to hear more about the automated system works on North Star. Apparently they catch 98% of the issues before a fine is levied.
Oh, okay. So the notifications that go out of North Star, I think is what he's talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, so similar to how we have our script set up, so you get one if you're 21 days past on inspection, you get one if your closing date is passed, you get one if all these other things. They have those same systems set up, but they have developed them over many more years than we have, and quite frankly, they're better. So that is the automated system. So if you put a listing in, and it does pair up with the tax data too. That linkage does help verify data. So if you put in a listing and let's say you put it in as a 4-bedroom and it's actually a 3, you had a typo, whatever, you'll get an email from North Star that says, hey, this listing is incorrect. You need to change it within 24 hours.
It depends on what whatever the actual fine is, what the days are for that. So like, we just got one for property went pending, so once it went past its supposed closing date, they automatically sent out an email. You had 48 hours to correct it and not get fined.
Or change the closing date.
Yeah, that was.
Or change the closing date or correct it however it needs to be corrected.
Yeah, the second part of his question, sorry, was are there any current North Star users that can speak on their experiences with this?
Yeah, it's super sweet that you get it so quickly. It gives you which property it is, what the actual issue is, what the rule is that you're breaking, and the time to be able to get it fixed and taken care of without having to make up 50 million phone calls.
And that's just like our system, that's not gonna be everything, but it is true that it is like 98% of compliance issues, they say, are handled that way. I do have stats on how they handle the other 2%, because that was my question. And they gave me like this ridiculous spreadsheet that was like more data than I ever thought enforcement would have. Like how many instances of each fine, what happened, how many were appealed, how many were waived, how many reduced, how many were upheld.
Oh my God.
For months and months, like years, they have all the percentages and all that jazz. I don't think there's any issue releasing that, but I'll just double check if that's of interest to people. Some yes, some no, nobody here, no, okay, all right, well.
Here to Jonathan.
Yeah.
Okay, any others, Jake?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, all right, well, if there's any others going through here, let me know. Okay, rental class, we don't have this right now, although going back in time, we did say, let's add this, and then we did a merger with Superior, and then we started talking about this. So we do kind of have this directive to add a rental specific class. So right now you have residential and you have for sale or for rent, right? This would add like a residential rental separate class entirely for you to put rental properties into if you wanted to. Compensation still required. But instead of having a tax amount, for example, you're advertising a rental property, nobody cares for rent, right? Not to buy for rent. Nobody cares what the taxes are on that apartment or that condo or whatever. It would be able to change the fields so that you can just put in the information you need to. You don't have to worry about all the other stuff that is not relevant to that particular type of property. So we just then consider the changes that we made in the other classes in this class. Like assume we want all those things to still exist, if it makes sense. Okay, multifamily, just a couple here. Again, there's a note. Everything you see in single family that exists in multifamily continues. For sale, for rent. Multifamily properties, they don't put in for rent because they have that separate class that addresses that, and I think that's right. Property type, they didn't have front and back multiple buildings or single. We said incorporate multiple buildings into current fields. Approximate yearly utility expenses, they don't have an overall utility expenses field, they have it broken down. When we looked at it again, we said we didn't really know when we have an extra one either, so we said take it out. Parking, they don't have RV parking We said we need it, we want RV parking, but off-street parking is, our street parking is on-street parking only. Same. And then they have a separate filter, you can indicate the exact number of other parking spaces available, so that meets what.
So we're asking that they incorporate RV parking into a multi-family residential.
Yeah.
If somebody can store their
We just
camper
did
at
Tom
their
that.
rental,
What's that?
somebody stores their RV at their rental.
I don't know, I mean,
Don't.
I don't know, a lot. You got lots of people that RV park, they rent up here, then they drive their camper down to Florida and stay for the winter, and then they come back up.
Well,
And we added it in residential, we might as well carry it all the way through and make it,
Yeah. I mean, it's not a required field, so.
it is.
correct.
And it's just an option that they're filtering. Right. Unit information, okay, so they didn't have unit level or unit comments, we said we have to have that. So for example, you've got a fourplex, and you've got your 4 units that you can input, the square footage of the bedrooms, the bathrooms, and that sort of thing. There are 2 fields that they didn't have that we have in those set of units. One is the level, so if it's a fourplex, what floor is it on? Is it on the main floor or the add that for those units. And then comments, we added that with the, we merged with the Superior, and actually I think it's pretty cool. So you can put comments on each unit, newly remodeled, smells like cat, whatever you're doing.
That would be a good option.
Too extreme.
Yeah. If we could add smell-o-vision to the MLS, we would be so lucky.
So we said please add those 2 because we feel like they have value. HOA insurance, we didn't, we said go ahead and remove that because we didn't feel like a lot of these would be needing that. And in laundry, we have separate room, and we said we don't need that, just use what you got. Questions on multifamily? Lots and land, same comment there on single family. Turns out they don't have for rent on land listings, not sure why they do either.
Yeah.
So we said, go ahead and take that out. Land improvements, yes or no. They don't have a separate yes/no field, but they do have an area where you can select what improvements there are. So that's cool, that sounds great. Improvements, they didn't have boat slip deck, dock, water feature, watering system, we said please add them. Available utilities on site, they didn't have oil, outhouse, propane, solar, underground utilities, we said please add them. You want to talk about that?
No.
Okay, great. And then options, they didn't have sell entirely, will go to suit, will divide, will exchange, please. Other, we said please add them. Land use questions. Farms, there's just a couple things here because we tried to mirror this after the single family class as well as we tried. Again, they didn't have for rent for farm. We said that makes more sense. And then we list out all the different kinds of farms it could be. And they didn't have those, they had an other, and we said that sounds fine. And hang with me, I did not grow up on a farm, so I don't know a lot of these things, so I'm going to assume if you did. We have meat shed, milk house, root cellar, and tap room in our MLS for all of our farms that we have, which is like 4 in the past year. But we said we need those things, clearly. So we asked them to incorporate those into the, what is this? What is that called? Outbuildings field.
Yeah.
Questions on farms? All right. All right, commercial, this one has a few more because
That was a long discussion on the shed.
You wouldn't believe the stuff we debate about. Meat sheds and tack rooms and.
RV parking.
Slaughter drop.
I learned a lot. I've learned a lot. Anyway. Okay, same comment on single family fields. Current business name, they didn't have this field, on commercial now. I said that's okay. Unit information, they didn't have fireplace info. I guess that makes sense, that's fine. HOA insurance, also not sure why we have that. We said we don't need that. Stories, they didn't have stories for commercial, and we did ask them to add stories for the commercial properties. Ceiling height, they also didn't have that, we asked them to add it. Interior walls, we had the panel, sheetrock, all that stuff, we said it's fine, don't worry about it. And then commercial kitchen amenities, we have 15 options there, all kinds of things for those of you who know about commercial kitchens, we said please add them. Overhead doors and overhead door width, we said we don't need it, that's okay. Loading dock, we said that's okay, we don't need that either. Current use, they didn't have laundromat or storage facilities, so we asked them to add those as current use options. And then sale includes, they did not have business assets or rental license included, and we asked them to include those two things. That's the entire list, folks. Now, what would you like to talk about?
Are we still being offered a share?
We are still looking at purchasing a share in
purchasing
the
a share,
corporation. Yes, that is correct. Yeah, that is 150,000 to buy that.
Did you negotiate with them? As your manager?
Not on that. That was what was offered to Rochester. That's how they bought into the corporation. We're getting the same offer. Rochester is not quite twice our size. So.
The shares are there.
So they are divided among the shareholder association. So there's St. Paul, Minneapolis, Rochester, and then there would be us. Those would be the shareholder associations. Now, buying a share gives us a seat on their board, which is really what we're interested in, because there's not dividends that are paid here. If North Star MLS runs at a surplus, they rebate it back on a per user basis. Okay, so let's say they made $10 extra per user, it gets rebated back through the user fees. Okay, so it's not, we don't get a dividend check at the end of the year. It goes back to the users. Okay.
And the user, there's how many user associations currently? There's
Three
shareholders.
There's currently 3 shareholder associations, and there's a bunch of, there's Greater Lakes, Itasca is going in.
Western
Wisconsin, they're not a shareholder, but they're a user.
Alexandria just joined. I think
Yeah.
was 16 associations in Minnesota, and I want to say at this point, at least 10 of them
St.
are.
Cloud is in there.
I think 10 of them are.
So let's say who's not. We're not,
Range isn't.
Mankato's not,
Yeah.
Range is not,
So is it Fargo?
Fargo, Moorhead is not,
Is
they're
not.
never gonna be. I mean, they're more North Dakota than Minnesota, I don't
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say, yes, I say that, that's unlikely.
But, so anyway, so there's 3 shareholders currently, we could be the 4th, and then there's however many.
Yeah.
Other associations that are users.
Correct. Yep, so the main motivation behind the shareholder arrangement is that we have a seat on their board, so that we are at the table when they're making decisions that impact us and all of their users. The way their board is divided up is each shareholder, I think St. Paul and Minneapolis have 2 seats, don't hold me on any of this, I don't have it in front of me. But I think they each have 2 seats, Rochester has 1, we would have 1, and then there's another, I want to say 6 or 8, somewhere in there, board members that are assigned to brokerage based on their unit shares. Top, we'll say 6 brokerages based on their unit shares. So there's going to be an Edina on there, there's a Burnett, or 2, or well, I don't know.
Remax.
There's a results, I'm sure, you know. That's how the rest of their board is made up. So over half of it is broker appointees based on unit shares. Yes.
Is that share a one-time purchase or is that for?
It's a one-time purchase. It's a investment, one-time investment. It's a balance sheet transfer, it's not an expense. Other questions? This is fun for you guys this week. Yes?
I think you were talking about public remarks. I left the room, but any chance that they'll expand to what we have? Because that's what we have.
So they have, I want to say they have, public remarks is limited to 1,000.
Yeah.
And we have 2,500.
Too little for us.
And I said, my members will cry and stay up at night if you don't increase this. And they said we could probably do something there. I don't know if it'll be 2,500, but maybe 2,000 we can probably get. So you may have to pare it down a little bit, but yeah, they said they're really using all those. Oh, yes. Yes, they are.
Especially Mr. Acton.
Well, that and the age remarks too, because their age remarks are smaller. than
Yeah.
ours.
So I think what a lot of their agents do and why they don't use as many public remarks again, culture thing. I think most of them they put more remarks on the photos because they've got remarks field on every photo that you input. So let's say it's a picture of the yard. You can say, fantastic perennial flower beds. Look at this spectacular water feature. Playhouse for whatever, or not for the kids because we don't want to say that, but for fun. And then, there's the bathroom and all that. So you can parse out a lot of those comments to those specific parts of the property. But I don't want to go to 1,500. I would say if we get to 2, that would make everybody's life better. So yeah. But yeah, that's a great example of one of those areas that, might see some adjustment.
Well, this is the time to ask, so.
Yeah, and I promise you, I don't know all the areas of adjustment. I promise you. It's being recorded. I will say right now, issues will come up. We're trying to anticipate as many of them as we can so that we can address them and take care of them on the front end. But I promise you that the issues will come up that we don't anticipate. Same as they did at the Dual Superior merger. But everybody survived that and seems to be going okay. Yes.
Jonathan Thornton, North Star is a shareholder structure. Are they considered a nonprofit organization like our association?
I have not pulled up their business records to see how they actually file. I suspect they have to file as a for-profit, but they run as a nonprofit, meaning they're not in it to make a bunch of money. Obviously, their staff gets paid, their CEO gets paid as expenses, but if there's any revenue outside of their operating expenses, it gets rebated back to the users. So they don't hold on to it as a corporation. I think that answers the question. So it is kind of similar to how we don't rebate back, we do other things, but if we ever made a bunch of money. Generally, we don't.
Just a comment, North Star added like about 18 fields to their program as of today.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You were just waiting to bring that piece of paper, you weren't you?
And they're already incorporating Itasca into their database, and Itasca is Paragon, and it's keeping their Paragon interface, so they're already starting to work with some of that stuff.
So Power Company is on here. So that's cool.
The introduction paragraph, I think, explains what's happening and why they're doing it.
It says they've released some additional options for existing data fields and several new fields.
Because they're expanding their geographical areas.
Right. Yeah.
Designed to deal with
Yep.
Itasca.
So I'm guessing a lot of these came from Itasca. I don't know if the Power Company was primarily because of us or something else. I don't see they did add outhouse to sewer, so that's done. And RV parking looks like has been added. So some of them are on here. It looks like, but like road, they added composition, but they didn't add living. So it looks like this might be primarily driven by Itasca possibly, I don't know, or some of our suggestions, but expect more.
The fact that they're doing it for expansion and adding on is a good sign, I think.
Oh,
For
yeah,
negotiation.
sure, yeah. Thank you. Other questions, comments, thoughts? What do we got? It's 11:31. I've got 29 minutes to talk to you guys. What do you guys talk about? Anything else? Any questions?
What kind of time frame are we looking at as far as the vote and you talked about?
Yeah.
What they added would probably be a winter implementation.
So we're looking at if everything goes through a Q1 2020 implementation. So that's January, February, March of next year implementation.
Oh, I have something called question.
Yep.
For if we do merge.
Yep.
Can we cut and clone, or are we inputting all of it? And what's gonna happen to that old data?
That's
You and I are the only ones that use the copy clone. I don't think anybody else.
Oh, no,
does.
no, no.
All kinds of people use it.
Oh, no, it happens all day.
So there's the tax record thing that you can import in North Star.
Correct.
But
I have not tried to copy clone, but I will.
Will you dig with it and
Yeah.
see what?
Yeah.
we make a note of Katie on those ones.
Yeah, I'm
That's
putting,
what
I'm putting it in the.
I think it's there, I just don't know.
I just worry about our admins.
Oh, amen, yeah.
You know, if we all do this and then our admins are like, okay,
I'm
and we effing quit.
Right,
you know?
yeah, no, I agree. That would be bad, that would be bad.
Yeah.
Bad. We love our admins, we wanna make sure they stay.
Yeah.
I believe it will be an option.
Yeah.
We'll check.
If this were to happen, when would the vote be? Or do you not know?
Before Q1 of 2020?
We're not pushing like annual meeting, right?
No, not again.
No, because it's gonna be electronic. So we'll probably talk about it at the end of meeting, which would be September, but the board and the task force and everybody have already said it's gonna be an electronic vote. So it'll go out via email, are you raising your hand or you're just thinking, okay?
It would be very
So-
similar to the lockbox vote.
What?
The lockbox vote is electronic, right?
That was before my time is doing this. We haven't had electronic lockbox.
Well, what was the vote we had, just
Or
right
the
for our
capital
timeline on?
improvements?
No, that
No,
was
that
the
was
merger.
We
That was
did a
the
merger.
merger.
Oh, there you go,
Oh.
the merger vote, okay, yes. So
Yeah, same software. We did a bylaws vote electronically, 2 years in January.
Sure.
So yeah, same kind of setup there. I guess 48 hour, I don't know the specifics of the date or how long it'll be open or anything yet, they haven't determined that, other than I can tell you it'll be an electronic vote. It'll just be majority of those voting. With the merger, we had to meet some other statute stipulations in Minnesota and Wisconsin. That won't be a thing now because we're not merging a corporation, we're just shifting service really. It depends on, so this is one of the things we wanted to go through. And I mean, we could make this process go a lot faster. However, we're doing a lot of things like this, member input. Hey, this is where we're at in the process. Here's what we've come up with. What do you guys think? There's gonna be another round of that. Hey, here's our final agreement. I think is where we're at. Here's all the things that we've made sure that we had incorporated that we've talked to them about. And they're almost done. So if there's what we'll call a big wiggy, or Sarah likes to call a big wiggy that comes out of any of that, it might require some additional time to work through that process. But I feel like our implementation of Q1 is okay. I feel like we can do that. Right now, we have our contract with Paragon for the end of the year. That doesn't mean we're gonna be cut off at the end of the year. We can extend it another however long we need or whatever and work with them on that. Especially since they'll be using or, getting a contract from North Star. So, I have a vague timeline on when I think that might happen, but as we move forward, we'll be solidified more, and of course, we'll notice members, with plenty of time to.
Yeah, and our hope is to have a pretty decently fleshed out information for the annual meeting, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I mean, honestly, we're pretty much there. I mean, whatever other questions you have, let me know, but I feel like, when we got one online, I feel like we've addressed, most of the things that have come to mind for me. There's a lot of details, like I said, what's required, what's not, all that stuff. Even the spreadsheet that we went through, I mean, how many of you opened this before you came to this meeting and went, nope?
Right now.
Like, not today.
It's great to me.
But does it make more sense
Yeah.
now? Okay, and it takes things like this to kind of go through. Databases are just complicated. And as much as we try and make it easy to understand and read, it's just big. Jason, you got one?
Yes. Not sure if this is the appropriate time for this question. How would a merger with North Star affect our budget in 2020? I assume our 2020 budget is already in the works.
Great question. So we budget October 1 through September 30th every year, and we present it at our annual meeting, whatever boards come up with. We have put together a draft budget that contemplates a North Star merger. So, and I guess I'm ready to look at it right now. We are looking at, so look at the green box here. And this will be part of everything that, so we haven't really released this part necessarily yet, but that's because we kind of just got through negotiating some other things. So there was a main question that we asked when we sent out this feedback to our members. Do you think we should have one fee for MLS service based on what, regardless of whether you have one license or two? Or do you think we should have what we currently have, which is a split fee? If I have one license, Minnesota or Wisconsin, I pay one amount. If I'm licensed in both states, I pay a different amount. Most of our members said, we think it should just be one. So this went to the task force and then the board went through it as well and said, okay, we're gonna switch to a single fee model. So instead of, I'm only licensed in Minnesota, I pay one rate, I'm licensed in Minnesota, Wisconsin, I pay a different rate. I'm gonna just pay one regardless, okay? So if you're a member of our association, like Superior Area Realtors, it would be $45 per month. If you're not a member of our association, it's $55. We do have a sold-only membership class for our public service members or people who are members of other MLSs that they can just get access to the sold information, or our affiliate partners companies too. $35 a month for that. And then admins, unlicensed administrative assistants for brokerages or personal assistants would be $30. Questions, comments? Since we went there.
Just some clarification, because I know I've had the question from a lot of people.
Yeah.
That single fee for single license or dual license applies to MLS. The association fee is still single license, dual license.
Correct, thank you.
Separate
Yeah,
fees.
yeah, we're still looking at dues being split. And then the, let's see, adjusting the amounts there to, see how much fun this is? Single license, 175, it's currently 125. Dual license, 225, it's currently 200. That's kind of stuff.
That doesn't cover, that doesn't include the 5 if they do both, CoreLogic and Paragon.
Correct, yeah, that would be that'd be add-on or whatever, if you want to do that. So, part of this, going with North Star, it's not just the database and that, but they do have a lot of things included in their MLS user fees that we don't have right now. The tax records is one of them that we talked about. If you look, actually, if you look on their, this is linked in the original comparison spreadsheet document as well, but we'll just pull it up here quick. Core services, this stuff is what they're saying is included in it. So Home Snap, Home Spotter, you're out at it, showing time, which you already have, forms, and they don't really know any kind of. Info Sparks, they've got some statistical software that we don't have right now that members really seem to like. Remind, trust funds, flood status, drive time search, that's interesting. Yeah, I feel like that was really fun. List track, Wirex is in there, down payment resource, RPR. Some of these are kind of like just adding on, even though RPR is like an association provided thing really. Find, you have that now. Widget, you have that now. Rate plug, you don't have right now. I've had some people ask for it. Those things that really should exist anyway. Oh, the other cool thing that they have is they have a dashboard software that's a single sign-in software that we've actually looked at several times adding here and haven't. But what it would be is you would sign into the dashboard and there'd be all these little tiles on there for all of your connected services. So think you have one login and your one login will take you to the MLS. It will take you to your CRM solution. It might take you to your brokerage backend. It would take you to showing time, RPR, all with a single sign-in. So instead of like, what's my RPR username and password, because nobody knows it, it would be a single sign-on.
Or you get a realtor.com,
All
or
of
something like that
those.
too.
Yeah. It's called Clarity Security Dashboard. I think we just call it dashboard. Clarity is not spelled correctly, in case you're trying to find it. It's their company name. And now I always spell Clarity wrong. So the other part about that is it does secure, those of you who've been around a while, we used to have this Scout MLS security product where you would log in and it would track how you type in your username and password and remembers that, okay, this is included in that as well. So no more sharing passwords. Sorry, kids. A lot of, I don't want to hear that.
I'm asking it as a question, does that still happen?
It does, it just,
What was the broker?
oh, that's IDX. You have that. It's a long wait for IDX.
Gotcha.
It's actually, yeah. So all of that stuff is included in the fees. Is it more expensive? Yes, without question. It's gonna be more expensive. Is it worth it? That's up for you guys to decide.
Can you explain how, under the North Star system, your data would integrate with instant immersive forms? In other words, if I'm doing Wisconsin transaction, would it?
So they don't have zip forms integrated right now, okay? So it's a conversation that we're working on with them, and kind of to that Western Wisconsin sure would like that too. And if they're looking to expand to be like this big, huge MLS system in the entire Midwest, they're gonna have to look at incorporating some of those things in there. So zip forms is not incorporated right now. One of the nice things about potentially merging with an organization the size of North Star is sometimes software vendors listen more to big people than little people. Sometimes, not always. There's companies who do a little bit better, but sometimes they do. So hopefully, legs will come under that a little bit faster. Now, Instinet, it does integrate with Matrix right now. Yes, Michelle?
Yes.
Instinet. Because, so they're onboarding Paragon, they're gonna be doing it this fall for Itasca, so they don't currently have Paragon as an option right now today, but I believe it'll still exist under your Paragon button where it does now, which is resources or something like that, is how I believe it's going to function, is the same way. I don't know for sure yet.
Yeah, on my desktop, it actually says just forms, and it says when Instinet is unavailable, you can actually click and it kicks you into Instinet when it's not working on your own system, so it's a double login there. You didn't understand what I meant.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna explain it.
How could you tell? Yeah, so, I believe it's gonna be in the same spot, but I do not know 100%, but that's my assumption. It'll still be integrated though. Other questions, comments, concerns?
I just wonder about the lack of people here.
Yeah, is this the only meeting?
I mean,
For this, yeah.
you
how
would
many
think
are
at
online?
least a broker. from
We
your
peaked
office-
at 20, now we're down to 5.
We had 20 online at one point,
Okay, good.
so that's nice.
They tailed off the last 20
Yeah,
minutes.
it started going on.
I mean, it's, you know, it's just, this has been very helpful to understand, and yet, when I did look at it online, it was less than helpful. I mean,
Yeah.
And,
We get it.
and so that's what the rest of them are doing, is looking online
And we'll leave, so this is being broadcast on YouTube, and we'll leave it online, so people can watch it, and hopefully, you know, I know it's been a while, and I don't know how many people are gonna sit there and watch it now, but, you know, it might be better, maybe someone will, it might be beneficial. If there's other ways that I can communicate better, that we're missing the boat on, let me know.
it just, I wondered that they're just gonna vote no, because, you know, they don't have the information.
That's
Well,
the
I'm glad
problem we
there's-
always deal with.
There's a bit of a gap from now till when you said there's
Sure.
potential vote, because just, let's face it, it's been a crazy busy year for everyone. This is the first time I had time to really start
Yep.
meeting and listening as well.
And it's August, you know, Yeah, so we'll have this still online. We will have, I mean, we're gonna have to have another meeting about the whole thing. Now, I probably am not gonna go over the whole spreadsheet in detail like I did today. There's a resource for that, we just recorded, it's online. If anybody has any other questions that we didn't address here, by all means, like, you're here. But we'll go through the whole thing again and hit that balance for sure, before there's a vote.
And at the annual meeting, we'll have, I mean, this will be all laid out at the annual meeting too.
But I'm not gonna spend an hour and a half going through fields again.
No.
I mean, I like it, but like, if I had 30, 40 people, even 20, that said, hey, I want you to go through those fields, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Because I'm weird and I like that stuff. But I just don't, I don't think it'll happen. You know, somebody start a petition and I'll do it. Send me 20 emails, that we'll be there at this date and time, I'll be like, sounds great. But I think that's unlikely.
That'll be true.
After, yeah, after we cover the official.
Gotta go.
Okay, bye, have fun.
Ooh, so that means we won't be able to get tested here for 2 or 3 days, right?
Thank you.
You're getting a new copy.
Don't forget to take frisbee.
Oh, yes, please.
Oh.
Okay, so I found 2 more boxes of Frisbees that have the old DAR logo and some 512 megabit flash drives. Need those.
Ooh.
I don't want them in my office anymore. Please take them. Don't give them to your dog because they'll break into a million pieces.
Don't give
Give them to your
kids
kid. They like
No, they don't.
So what good are they for?
Thanks for coming. Those of you who are here, you know where to find me if you have any other questions. Have a great
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Bye.
Oh, sorry. I don't know how we're doing this.